Hey everyone. So sorry for going MIA yesterday. Um, Life, it happens sometimes. But hey, I'm back and ready to dive into some fascinating topics, especially for all you UPSC aspirants out there. Today's deep dive is going to be packed with insights you won't want to miss.
Definitely. We've got a really interesting mix of recent events and reports to unpack, all super relevant for the exam.
Think internet access, cutting-edge technology, India's economic landscape.
Huh?
Oh, and even a bit of space exploration. We're going to connect the dots in ways you might not expect. And for those joining us for the first time, don't forget to like and subscribe to stay updated on all our future deep dives. Now let's kick things off with a topic that's constantly making headlines. Internet shutdowns. We know India saw 60 internet shutdowns in 2024, the lowest in 8 years.
It's interesting, right? Because we're seeing this decline happening while globally there's this growing recognition of internet access as a fundamental, right? I mean, the UN even declared it as such back in 2016.
So how do we make sense of these seemingly contrasting trends? Where does India actually stand legally when it comes to these shutdowns?
Well, India's approach is all about finding that balance between security and freedom. Article 19.2 of the Constitution, you see, allows for reasonable restrictions on freedom of speech and expression, and that includes situations where public order or national security is at stake.
So historically, these shutdowns have been used in India to, try and control the spread of misinformation or to prevent violence or even just to maintain order during times of unrest. But obviously, this raises concerns about potential human rights violations and the impact on different sectors.
Exactly. Critics argue that these shutdowns disproportionately affect vulnerable communities, disrupt economic activity, and hinder access to essential services like education and healthcare.
And this ties in directly with those sustainable development goals, those SDGs that are becoming so central to global development discussions.
Right. Internet access is absolutely essential for achieving many of those goals, like reducing inequalities, promoting quality education, empowering women. So finding that balance between security concerns and ensuring equitable access is a huge challenge for India. It's a debate that needs nuanced and well-informed arguments, which is why a deep understanding of the issues is so crucial, especially for those UPSC aspirants listening in.
Now let's switch gears to something that's both thrilling and a little bit daunting: frontier technologies in warfare. We're talking AI, electromagnetic warfare, space warfare, cyber attacks, technologies that are completely changing the battlefield as we know it.
It's a rapidly evolving landscape with both opportunities and risks for nations like India.
Yeah.
For example, AI-powered drones are already being used for surveillance and targeted strikes, and that raises ethical concerns about autonomous warfare and the potential for unintended consequences.
And then there's that incident at the Kudankulam nuclear power plant, a cybersecurity breach that really exposed just how vulnerable critical infrastructure is to these sophisticated cyber attacks.
This highlights the asymmetric nature of these new warfare domains. Even smaller nations or non-state actors could potentially leverage these technologies to cause significant damage, blurring the lines of traditional warfare.
It feels like we're entering a whole new era of conflict, where the rules are still being written.
Yeah.
What does this mean for international security, especially for a country like India that's trying to establish itself as a global power?
It's a complex situation. On one hand, India recognizes that it needs to embrace these technologies to stay competitive and protect its national interests. And we're seeing this in initiatives like the Defense AI Council and the Antariksha Abhya's 2024 space exercise, which focused on integrating space capabilities into military operations.
So India's taking a proactive approach, investing in research and development, conducting strategic exercises to boost their capabilities.
Absolutely. But at the same time, there's a growing awareness of the need for international cooperation and rules to govern the use of these technologies. The risk of escalation and miscalculation is high. We need to establish clear boundaries to prevent unintended conflicts.
And let's not forget that whole dual-use dilemma. Technologies initially developed for civilian purposes are now finding applications in the military arena. This further blurs the lines between peaceful and hostile intentions, and it raises a whole host of ethical and legal questions that need careful consideration, especially for those aspiring policymakers out there.
It's a crucial aspect of this whole debate, and one that requires a deep understanding of the technology, its potential applications, and the potential consequences of misuse.
Speaking of navigating complex landscapes, let's focus on India's economic outlook. Amidst all this talk of technological advancements and global uncertainties, it's encouraging to see projections of 6.6% GDP growth for 2024-25.
Absolutely. And the factors driving this growth are worth paying attention to. A revival in rural consumption, strong government spending, thriving service exports, all contributing to this positive trend.
But what about the bigger picture? How resilient is India's financial system? Are there any hidden vulnerabilities we need to be aware of?
Well, a recent report on financial stability paints a pretty optimistic picture. The report highlights a declining debt-to-GDP ratio, indicating responsible fiscal management. And the performance of scheduled commercial banks has been commendable. Healthy profitability, decreasing non-performing assets, robust capital, and liquidity buffers.
So a stable financial system is a good indicator for any economy, right?
Absolutely. It provides a solid foundation for growth and allows the government to focus on other key areas, like infrastructure development and social welfare programs.
And that brings us to Industry 4.0. This new industrial revolution, characterized by smart factories, automation, and data exchange, is poised to transform manufacturing globally. How is India preparing for this rapidly evolving landscape?
Well, certain sectors like automotive electronics and pharmaceuticals have been quick to adopt these Industry 4.0 technologies. They're using automation, data analytics, and the Internet of Things to increase efficiency and productivity.
So we're talking robots on assembly lines, real-time data-driving production decisions, a more integrated and interconnected manufacturing ecosystem.
Exactly. But as with any major technological shift, there are challenges. Some sectors like textiles, metals, and mining are facing some big barriers to adoption.
What are the main roadblocks they're encountering?
There are a few factors at play. For many smaller businesses, the initial investment required for Industry 4.0 technologies can be pretty daunting. And then there's the challenge of integrating these new systems with existing legacy infrastructure.
And of course, there's the human element. You need skilled workers who can operate and maintain these advanced systems. So upskilling and retraining programs are really important to bridge that gap.
It's not just about the technology itself, it's about building a whole ecosystem that supports its adoption. So things like awareness campaigns to show businesses the benefits of Industry 4.0, financial incentives to encourage investment, and those skill development initiatives we talked about. All essential for a smooth transition.
Sounds like a multi-pronged approach is needed.
Yeah.
Is the government doing anything specific to address these challenges and really push for Industry 4.0 adoption?
Definitely. There are initiatives like Samarth Udyog Bharat 4.0, which focuses on providing infrastructure and training to accelerate the adoption of these advanced manufacturing technologies. And Make in India 2.0 is all about attracting investment in high-tech manufacturing, which will further boost the sector.
It's encouraging to see these efforts to make sure India doesn't get left behind in this new industrial revolution. Now let's talk about something that really captures the imagination. ISRO's space docking experiment, SpaceX. It's not every day a nation successfully docks spacecraft in orbit. What made this mission so special?
SpaceX was a real testament to India's growing capabilities in space. I mean, it involved launching 2 spacecraft and then performing those complex maneuvers of rendezvous docking and undocking. They even demonstrated the ability to transfer electric power between the docked spacecraft, which is a critical technology for future missions.
I remember seeing those images of the 2 spacecraft linked together in orbit. It was a proud moment for India. But beyond the symbolism, what are the practical implications of SpaceX? Why is this technology so important?
Space docking opens up so many possibilities for future missions. You could assemble larger, more complex spacecraft in orbit, which would be crucial for ambitious projects like setting up a lunar base or carrying out those sample return missions.
So it's like a building block for even grander space exploration endeavors.
Exactly. And then there's the potential for a Bharatiya Antariksh station, India's very own space station. SpaceX brings that dream a step closer. And it also has implications for cost effectiveness. Instead of launching everything at once, you can launch modules separately and assemble them in space, which reduces launch costs and complexity.
It's a real game changer for India's space program. It showcases their technological expertise and paves the way for even more ambitious goals. And it's worth noting that ISRO achieved all of this using homegrown technology. The Inter-Satellite Communication Link, the GNSS-based RODP processor, the docking mechanism itself, all developed in India.
It's a true testament to the talent and ingenuity of Indian scientists and engineers.
Now we've covered some pretty heavy topics today. Internet shutdowns, frontier technologies, economic indicators, Industry 4.0, even space docking. But there's so much more happening in India that deserves our attention.
Oh, definitely. The news cycle never stops.
So let's shift into rapid-fire mode and cover a few other noteworthy events that are relevant for our UPSC aspirants. First up, CP-Grams, the Centralized Public Grievance Redress and Monitoring System. This online platform has been really successful in resolving citizens' grievances and connecting the government with the people.
It's a great example of e-governance done right. Over 25 lakh citizens have registered on the platform since 2019, and the average time it takes to address grievances has been significantly reduced.
And they're always innovating. They've integrated AI and machine learning to prioritize grievances, identify systemic issues, and make the whole process more efficient.
And now, thanks to language translation, technology citizens can submit and have their grievances addressed in their native language, which makes the platform much more accessible and inclusive.
Next up, some news from Egypt. The Suez Canal recently completed a trial run of a new channel extension. This vital waterway connecting the Mediterranean Sea to the Indian Ocean just got a major upgrade.
The extension expands the two-way section of the canal, which allows for larger ships and smoother traffic flow. It could have a significant impact on global trade and shipping routes.
Back to India now, where the issue of private members' bills in Parliament has been making headlines. The numbers are pretty stark. Only 9.08 hours were spent on these bills in the entire 17th Lok Sabha, and not a single one has been passed since 1970.
It raises questions about how effective this legislative mechanism actually is and the role individual members play in shaping policy.
Now let's move on to Azerbaijan, a country with a diverse geography and a complex geopolitical landscape.
Azerbaijan shares borders with Russia, Iran, Armenia, and Georgia, and it also has a coastline along the Caspian Sea. It's been in the news recently due to that tragic airliner crash that killed 38 people, prompting an apology from the Russian president.
The incident highlights the geopolitical sensitivities in the region, especially that ongoing territorial dispute between Azerbaijan and Armenia over the Nagorno-Karabakh region.
Speaking of geopolitical hotspots, let's not forget Pangong Lake, that beautiful high-altitude lake in the Ladakh region.
Situated at over 350 meters, Pangong Lake is known for its ever-changing colors and the fact that it's shared between India and China.
And the recent installation of a statue of Shivaji on the banks of the lake by the Indian Army has brought renewed attention to the ongoing border tensions between the two countries.
Shifting focus to a more somber topic, the devastating landslides in Wayanad have been declared a calamity of severe nature by an interministerial central team.
This designation unlocks additional funding support from the National Disaster Response Fund. It shows how important it is to have clear criteria and systems in place to assess and respond to natural disasters.
Let's flow down the Teesta River now, a lifeline for the people of Sikkim and northwest Bengal.
The river originates in Sikkim, and it's a crucial source of water for drinking and irrigation in the region. The West Bengal government recently announced plans to supply water to farmlands through pipelines from the Teesta River.
This move really underscores the growing importance of water management and infrastructure development in ensuring food security and agricultural productivity, especially with the challenges of climate change.
Now, for something a little different, let's talk about taxes. The direct tax Vivad se Vishwas scheme introduced in the 2024 budget was designed to help taxpayers resolve disputes with the income tax department.
The scheme allows taxpayers to settle outstanding tax liabilities by paying a certain percentage of the disputed amount. And the deadline for participation was recently extended.
Moving on to coastal security. A recent review revealed some worrying gaps in preparedness.
13 coastal states reported critical shortages in essential infrastructure and resources, which raises questions about the effectiveness of the coastal security scheme.
The scheme, implemented in 2 phases, aims to provide states with support for marine patrolling and enhancing overall coastal security. But these reported shortages show the need for continuous monitoring and evaluation to make sure the scheme is actually achieving its objectives.
Finally, let's touch upon H-1B visas, a topic that's always in the news, especially for Indian professionals.
Indians continue to be the majority of recipients for these visas, which are designed to help U.S. employers fill skill gaps in specialized occupations.
The continued high demand really reflects the ongoing need for skilled talent in the U.S. economy and the strong educational and professional pipeline that exists in India.
Wow. We covered a lot of ground there. From grievance redressal and canal expansions to space docking and tax disputes, it's clear that India is a nation on the move, tackling a diverse range of challenges and opportunities. That was quite the journey through current affairs, wasn't it? But for our UPSC aspirants out there, remember, it's not just about knowing the facts. It's about connecting those dots, seeing the bigger picture. Exactly. We saw how seemingly unrelated events and trends are actually all intertwined. Internet shutdowns, for example. It's not just about security. It's about human rights, economic development, and even achieving those SDGs.
And then we have those frontier technologies, revolutionizing warfare, but also bringing up some serious ethical questions that we as a global community really need to address.
India's economic growth story is another key takeaway. The numbers look good, but it's important to understand what's driving that growth and to consider any potential weaknesses.
Industry 4.0 is another area where India needs to be strategic to really benefit from this technological transformation, while also tackling those challenges faced by certain sectors.
And of course, there's India's space program, SpaceX. It's not just a technological achievement, it's a symbol of India's ambition and its growing influence on the global stage.
So much to think about. What really stood out to you from today's deep dive? Was it the debate around internet shutdowns, the implications of frontier technologies, or maybe the complexities of India's economic landscape? Let us know in the comments.
And as you reflect on all of this, here's a final thought-provoking question to consider. India is at a crossroads, embracing technological advancements while also dealing with social and economic challenges. How can the nation use these advancements to create a more inclusive and sustainable future for everyone? It's a question worth exploring.
We always love hearing your perspectives, so feel free to share your thoughts and insights in the comments below. And if you're new to the show and you enjoyed today's deep dive, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and the notification bell so you don't miss out on future episodes. Thanks for joining us on this journey of knowledge and discovery.
Until next time, stay curious, stay informed, and keep diving deep.